Good morning, VI. Sometimes we spend more than half of our day working, sometimes just to live from paycheck to paycheck. This year, we want to change the playing field. It's time to make work work for you on Good Morning, VI.
Wake up, VI! It's time to tune in. Yeah. This is the day the Lord has made. Whoa. Rejoice and be glad in it. Yeah. Hey! Good morning, VI. Good morning. Wake up. It's time to tune in. Good morning. This is the day the Lord has made. VI. Good morning. Wake up. It's time to tune in.
Good morning and welcome to Good Morning BI, the morning show for you to start your day right and walk through your day right. I'm Denise, and as always, Lisandra and Dolce isn't here today, but we all aim to inform you and inspire you as we cover a variety of interesting topics important to our everyday lives and our community, like healthy living, green living, education and family, money matters. Well, today is no different. Today, we're talking about making work for you.
Yes, we are. And with this economic climate, we're going to have special guests.
That's right.
Yes, Dr. Valdemar Hill is going to be with us today.
And he's going to be talking about making the best of the job when you have a job.
Yes.
And then we have Jamila Harris, who's going to talk about what you can do when you don't have a job.
Yes, what skills do you have that can make you some income?
And it can really show that we really have the creative power to make wealth, right?
Yes.
Well, anyway, before we get to all of that, we always start our program with a prayer, a scripture, and a word of encouragement because it's important to start every day right. And Lisandra, she will translate from English to Spanish for our Spanish-speaking viewers. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you and praise you for this brand new day. You are a refuge and our fortress and the supplier of all of our needs. We put all of our trust in you, Lord, so that we are not worried or anxious. We seek your wisdom and guidance in all of the affairs of our lives, so that we may walk in peace, joy, and the abundance that you have provided for us, regardless of any adversity or circumstance. So we can make and we can be a blessing to others as well. We thank you for it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Señor, en el nombre de Jesús, le damos gracias y alabanzas por este nuevo día. Tú eres nuestro refugio y fortaleza y suplidor de nuestras necesidades. Ponemos toda nuestra confianza en ti para no estar preocupados o ansiosos. Buscamos tu sabiduría y dirección en todos nuestros asuntos. Así caminamos en paz, alegría y abundancia que nos has proveído a pesar de adversidad, circunstancia y para que podamos ser una bendición a otros. Le damos gracias por esto en el nombre de Jesús. Amén.
Amen. And today's scripture comes from Matthew 6:31 and 33. And it says, "Do not worry then, saying, what will we eat, or what will we drink, or what will we wear for clothing? But seek ye first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you."
Mateo 6, 31 y 33. No os afanéis, pues diciendo, ¿qué comeremos, o qué beberemos, o qué vestiremos? Mas buscad primeramente el reino de Dios y su justicia, y todas estas cosas os serán añadidas.
And our word of encouragement, that brings us to our word of encouragement today. And our word of encouragement is that you don't have to worry or be anxious for anything. Do not worry or let bad reports about the economy or even job loss cause you to worry or be fearful. God is your provider. Not your boss, not your employer, but God. He is the supplier of all of your needs. Put your focus and trust in Him. He will cause you to overcome any economic adversity and prosper despite the circumstances. He will show you a way even when there seems to be no way at all. And I think that's encouraging, and especially these days we need that kind of encouragement, because so many people are suffering job loss. They are suffering just the economic situations, crises and problems just within their homes. And there's really, it is really important that we start to really focus and realize that really the supplier of our needs is not the job. It's not the people who talk about the economy. It's not Wall Street. It's not the stock market, but really it's God, and He will supply.
Exactly.
And I think the way that He does it too is He would bring us creative ideas and wisdom in how to address situations, or how to face our adversities and resolve them.
And also peace. And it's so interesting, Denise, that we chose Matthew 6:33. That's my favorite verse in the Bible. It has always been since I was a little girl. So it's important to always seek Him first and be anxious for nothing, because there's a greater plan, His plan. Exactly. And we're hearing a lot of things, not only here but also on the mainland. And we get worried and we get anxious, and we think about our families and we think about our future, and we worry. And one of the things God says is, be anxious for nothing. There's a plan.
That's the first thing He says. Do not worry. And the thing about worrying too is that when you're worrying, it strangles your ability to be creative and to be open to see how the situation can be changed.
Yes, and how better
exactly
it can be for you if there is a change.
Because it's just based on fear. It's really almost like putting your faith in what you're afraid of, rather than your belief in what you don't want, or the solution, and in God, and because
I'm putting your faith in the negative.
That's right.
And not the positive, and not in Him.
Exactly.
Which is what's important.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I think especially these days, I think you're right. That scripture, it just came to me that it's really fitting that no matter what we're going through, no matter what the circumstances may seem, no matter what the bad news is, that we seek Him first, and those things will come to us.
Shall be added unto you.
And do not worry, because worrying doesn't help anything. Worrying would not add anything to what, just take away. So, I think that's important, and that's what's so really great about the program that we have today, because not only do we have Dr. Hill,
who's going to give us some good points and tips about our present jobs, but
yes, if you're in your job and making that work for you, and how to really navigate through that and making the best of every situation. But we also have Jamila Harris, who has written a book, Creating an Income with or Without a Job.
That's right.
And she talks about emergency things that you can do if you find yourself suddenly without a job, to create an income.
Yes.
You're going to be all right.
Yes, we will.
That's right. So that's coming up next. And we're going to be speaking first with Dr. Valdemar Hill, and he's going to talk about navigating your way through the organizational jungle. And you know that it could be a jungle out there. So coming up next, stay tuned on Good Morning VI.
It's time to tune in. Yeah. This is the day the Lord has made. Whoa, rejoice.
Come visit us at 9000 Lockhart Garden, or on the web, www.furnitureinvi.com, or just call 774-2583.
Let Furniture Inn make your house a home.
Yeah, this is the day the Lord has made.
Good morning, VI, and welcome. Today we're talking about making work for you. And we have our very own employment expert, Dr. Valdemar A. Hill Jr. He's the author of the book, Self-Help for Employees, Achieving Success in the Organization Jungle. He's also the chief negotiator for the Office of Collective Bargaining and the president and CEO of the Hill Group. Welcome, Dr. Hill.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me on Good Morning VI.
Yes, it's a pleasure to have
Yes,
you.
it is.
Dr. Hill, what prompted you to write this book?
Well, I've been teaching in the areas of supervision and management and leadership for a few decades at a university and have read many, many books on those subjects. And as I searched the literature, I realized that there was not a whole lot in regard to how employees might gain, from this type of experience within their organizations. And so I thought that it would be a good thing to provide literature for the rank and file employee who finds him or herself in a situation where they are up against, at times, supervisors and managers that aren't quite ready to supervise or manage. They find themselves in quite a dilemma.
So who can benefit from the book? You said rank and file employees. What about persons who own their own businesses? Who can benefit?
Well, everyone in organizations, whether it's in the private sector or the public sector, or other type of organizations such as nonprofits, as long as you have an employer-employee relationship, both sides can benefit from this book. The book is written primarily for employees, but as supervisors and managers read the book, they will gain some insight in regard to some of their own deficiencies and why employees react the way they do to their supervision.
Very interesting. And we went out into the general public to ask questions because we know that we're all concerned about having success in our workplace. And the first question we have is from Josie.
Dr. Hill, how do I know if I'm working in the right career or just settling for a job?
That's a very good question. The fact of the matter is, there are quite a number of individuals that are working in jobs simply because they need to have some means of providing, for their financial requirements. Now, you can know whether or not you're working in the right profession or occupation if you have a passion for it. If it is something that you feel very strongly about, and that alone is quite a motivator in terms of your wanting to achieve in the position that you find yourself in. So I would suggest that if you find that there is a passion for doing what you're doing, you more than likely are in the right, on the right job. Unfortunately, there are too many individuals that are working jobs that they don't have a passion for, but it's a job.
Well, kind of like what I liked about your book is when you talk about the employees and in that place where it might not be, something that they're enjoying, sometimes it's a way of like finding your passion. And I think you talked about that a little bit, about finding some ways that you can get out of your job to, whether it's your performance or something, but to develop yourself better as an employee. What's the benefit there?
Well, I'm a strong advocate of personal growth and development. I think that every one of us has a responsibility to ourselves and to our loved ones to become all that we can become. And within the organization, I'm suggesting in the book that there's a need for employees to begin to look earnestly at the organization from a different perspective. And that perspective is one of how can I make a contribution to achieving the goals and objectives of this organization. In order to answer that question effectively, you've got to get to know the organization, you've got to get to know the structure, and you've got to get to know management, their styles, their different styles of management. And in many instances, the style of management that I have found in my endeavors with many organizations, both public and private, is an autocratic style of management. I refer to that as bossism. Do what I tell you to do.
Don't ask me why.
Don't ask me why. Just do it. But people generally don't positively react to such a posture. There are other styles of management, such as the transactional and democratic and transformational. A style of leadership that I advocate is referred to as
yes,
servant.
we see that in a book, which is very good.
Servant leadership, It's important for those individuals that are in charge of organizations recognize that really they should be serving the rest of the organization by providing the appropriate resources, by establishing meaningful working relationships, you know, by developing good communication skills. The whole point of management is to get their employees to a place where they begin to feel that, hey,
They are appreciated, right?
yeah, they not only appreciate what I do, but you know, this is a good place to work. You know, these people are okay.
That does encourage morale, am I right? And
Absolutely.
so there's a
increases
benefit,
morale. Yes.
Absolutely.
right.
And Dr. Hill, we have another question that was asked by Pam.
Dr. Hill, how can I have a better work experience with performing my job with my supervisor and with my staff?
You know, one of the things that I've indicated in the book is pretty hard for many employees to do. And so the question becomes, you know, well, why even bother? The answer is because it is in your own best interest. We don't have to be in a managerial or supervisory position in order to be effective. The fact of the matter is, every single employee has influence. And it depends on how well you're able to establish a relationship with those individuals to whom you report to enable you to exert the type of influence that you believe to be a positive one.
Wonderful, wonderful, Dr. Hill. Now, you're in your book, you talk about, you know, the proposed solutions when you're a dissatisfied employee. Let's say if you do have an autocratic boss, and you say that the solutions aren't for the faint of heart. What do you mean by that?
Well, what I mean is that unless you're really ready and desirous of effectuating a more meaningful relationship in the organization, then, you know, the proposed solutions aren't for you. You have to desire to want to turn things around. And you've got to understand that it really doesn't matter where you are in the organization. You can contribute to turning things around by looking at yourself, your own behavior, your own perception, and how you view the organization and those individuals in it. So it really begins with you and to what degree you want to help turn things around in the organization.
I thought it was really a good point, which stood out for me in your book, was that you talked about the reaction of the employee and how the employee can control their reaction to the situation. And specifically, a part of it, you said, this book provides strategies to help the rank and file employee not to fall into the trap of reacting negatively to a negative organization. So how do they do that? Here is a negative situation. How do they react positively? And what do you mean?
Again, and that is a hard thing to do because a natural, normal reaction to a negative situation is to be negative in return. But if one understands that that is not going to get me anywhere, and as a matter of fact, those type of scenarios at times lead to the individual employees, you know, discipline or even termination, all as a result of some supervisor or manager who didn't quite have the kind of skills to enable a meaningful relationship, behaving negatively with an employee and an employee subsequently, you know, responding in kind, not realizing that at some point in time, the supervisor or manager is going to say, I am not going to tolerate your behavior. In other words, I'm not going to tolerate the way you are reacting to my negative behavior. And then begins to institute some type of disciplinary measure. Employees can avoid falling into that type of trap by, first of all, recognizing that the supervisor or the manager has a problem. And what can I do to help, you know, solve that problem in terms of effectuating a more meaningful relationship? It means that the employee has to take the high road. The employee in that instance has to be the adult in the situation. And that's not an easy thing to do.
That's what we talked about earlier, about the faint of heart. But stay tuned. Coming up next, we continue our discussion with Dr. Hill on making work for you on Good Morning VI.
Wake up, VI! It's time to tune in. Yeah. This is the day the Lord has made. Rejoice and be glad in it.
Virgin Islands Oncology and Hematology provides care to patients in the VI with cancers and blood disorders. Dr. Errol Hobdy on St. Thomas and Dr. Preston Dalglish on St. Croix, 2 locations, 1 team, provide chemotherapy in a private setting. Virgin Islands Oncology and Hematology has been serving the VI since 2006. On St. Thomas, 776-1551. On St. Croix, 772-1551. Compassionate, caring, competent Caribbean.
Wake up, VI! It's time to tune in. Yeah. This is the day the Lord has made.
Good morning, VI, and welcome back. We're here with Dr. Valdemar Hill talking about making work for you. He's the author of the book, Self-Help for Employees, Achieving Success in the Organization Jungle. Dr. Hill, in your previous discussion, you were saying that employees have to do some self-introspection. Talk a little bit more about that.
Yes, it's the beginning step is self-analysis. Really, we each one of us need to take a look at ourselves and try to identify our strengths, our weaknesses, our shortcomings, our deficiencies, because we all have them. And oftentimes they come into play in the organization, causing us to be less than effective. So it begins there with a self-analysis. And it moves towards getting individuals to take a long, hard look at the organization itself, its structure, the management hierarchy, who these individuals are that are in these managerial positions, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses.
Well, I just wanted to ask a question because Dr. Hill, and your book is so interesting, I couldn't even put it down. And in the book, you talk about, doing the self-analysis. But at what point do you say, wait a minute, I am growing, I am changing, I am becoming a better person, but my supervisor is still the same autocratic boss, and things are not changing. At what point do you say, okay, this is enough, I have been the bigger person?
Well, that point comes at some point differently to different individuals. Okay. I'm trying to get individuals to understand whether they are the rank and file employee or supervisory or managerial, all of us have choices. And once we have done an analysis of the situation and our role in it, then we have to decide whether or not we're going to go along with the status quo and acquiesce and become a part of the problem, or move on. Yes. Move on. And I keep saying the time to look for another job is when you have one.
Exactly. So I guess the thing though is that how do you continue to make a better situation in the job you have while you're looking for the other one? That is the challenge then.
That is
for
the challenge, and the challenge is met by doing your very best every day. At the end of the day, no one should be found guilty of not doing their very best that day.
And I think what I liked about the book too is you talk about increasing your own self-performance, and that it's not necessarily for your boss that you're doing it for. So, but to really think about it that, hey, it's for yourself. You're making yourself better. Absolutely. And maybe it's easier to really handle it, or the negative situations.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Because all of the skills that you develop over that period of time are yours.
Yes.
And you take them everywhere
wherever
you
go.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I just want to get a little personal, because I work at the Department of Human Services, and we all help each other. We help the public, and we also help each other. And there are times when we're talking about different issues in the community, and a lot of people are thinking about leaving the island because of everything that is happening. A lot of persons jump from job to job, and they find that every place they go, it's the same. Have you found that there's a difference between the jobs and the system in the Virgin Islands versus the mainland?
No, wherever you go, you will find the same type of situations because you are dealing with human beings, imperfect as we are.
Yes.
And there is no perfect human being, and there's no perfect system, and there's no perfect organization. And so wherever you happen to be, I think it's important for you to acknowledge that and then vow to be the best that you can be.
Yes.
Because the only person that you can change is yourself.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I think that's where the power is. Like, I think sometimes employees feel powerless. And what I like about what you say in the book and what you just said is that it shows that, yes, you do have power. You may not have power to control what the managers or the bosses or your boss is doing, but you certainly have the power and the control over what you do, how you react, and what you can get, right?
You're absolutely right.
that's-
And there are opportunities even to control what supervisors and managers and other individuals do by exerting a positive influence. Because we all have that ability, and we all have that, that possibility, lies for all of us, that we can attempt to influence positively all of those individuals who come, who are interacting with us.
Okay, and in your book, and you talk about strategies, is it telling you, like, what are some of the things you can do to do that? I mean, it's one thing to say, yes, that's what we should do as
But
employees, but how? Can you just give us a little bit about
First of all, I think that in terms of interacting with individuals, the interpersonal relationships, one of the things that I have found to be sorely, missing is effective communication. We have to develop our communication skills. We've got to understand that there's 1,001 ways to skin the cat, if you will. And so the appropriate choice of words, the demeanor, the approach, the timing, all of that is important as you attempt to influence other individuals.
Yes.
And you must go into the situation understanding what your purpose is. You're just not randomly talking, and are you just not complaining, but you're trying to solve a problem. So you've got to think about it. You've got to understand who that individual is that you're approaching, and then devise a mechanism, a means by which, with the right timing, the right verbiage, you approach that individual to help in the situation.
It's almost like being goal-oriented. You got a goal, like what it is that you want. So cussing out your boss isn't going to
That's not going to cut it.
Yes. Yes.
That is not going to cut it.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, that's the easiest and quickest way to find
To
yourself.
get out.
Right.
Exactly.
And it also sounds like, counseling, when you're counseling in a marriage or even a relationship, also, making sure you have a goal, making sure, you have effective communication, as you say, and also, watching your demeanor, talking about maybe, baggage, things in the past that may have happened, and just watching your approach.
Absolutely. So many of us are prone to succumb to our emotions, failing to realize that, at the moment you might feel one way, and then, subsequent to acting on your emotions, we find, gee, why did I say that?
And
why did I do that?
I think that still comes into, especially in the workplace, if you feel that initial urge to just yell or scream, stop. Just don't say anything. Maybe you need to just go and get rid of all that feeling, and then decide, okay, this is the best way to do it.
Like, don't press the send button.
You can write the email, but don't send it.
Yes.
Wait a while, maybe the next day.
After
and then-
lunch,
exactly.
come back and look at it and say, wait,
I love it.
I think it's important for employees as they are interacting with supervisors and managers that are not particularly skilled to understand that their approach should not be one that is threatening. It should be non-threatening. Because if your objective, if your purpose is to help to change a situation, then we need to understand that a threatening approach will not
That would not
help
work.
in
Never
that
work.
endeavor. Right.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hill. It has been a pleasure having you. And we'll be back with Good Morning VI. Stay tuned.
Wake up, VI! It's time to tune in. Yeah. This is the day the Lord has made. Whoa. Rejoice and be glad.
Come see why many children love G-Clef Music Academy, Tillett Gardens and Content. Call 344-6449. G, it's fun learning to play.
Wake up, VI!
Welcome back to Good Morning BI. We're talking about making work work for you. Well, we talked to Dr. Hill about employees and what you need to do in the job. But what about if you don't have a job? If you lost your job due to layoffs, downsizing, what do you do? Well, that's where our guest, Jamila Harris, comes in, because she has written a book called Create Income with or Without a Job. Right, welcome, Ms. Harris.
Thank
well,
you so
Jamila
much.
Harris, let me just tell you a little bit about her. Jamila Harris is a marketing expert, an author, a broadcast journalist, and a real estate broker. She has authored 2 books. One, Create Income with or Without a Job, which we're going to talk about, and also how to make big money with your small business. Well, Ms. Harris, how do you do that? You're in an impossible situation. You're getting laid off. All of a sudden, you find yourself without a job. First, talk about what do you do?
Well, Denise, thank you so much. It's so wonderful to be here with you lovely ladies who I often watch every Friday.
Wonderful.
And I also want to let you know that it's refreshing to have a television show that allows us to express God and the fact that God is at the center of all that we do and our success. There is no success without Him.
Well, thank you.
And really and truly, I experienced from personal experience the sudden job loss. 28 days from now, you have no job. And in 1980, I was very educated, as most people who are being laid off now, they think that their education is the key to having continuous income. And unfortunately, really and truly what we always need to do is to focus on our natural gifts, talents, and abilities, and having multiple streams of income. So it's very traumatic to lose one's job and one's income. I have a plan from Create Income with or Without a Job called the Keep the Wolf Away from the Door plan.
Okay.
My grandmother gave me that
Door.
name.
Who's the wolf?
Yeah.
Who is the wolf?
Well,
What's that?
the wolf in fact is all the bills and the debts that we tend to carry because we know that that next paycheck is coming.
That's got to be the scariest part to them
Yes,
of being
it
laid
is.
off and losing a job.
And food, clothing, shelter, basic needs become very important.
Yes.
So in the Keep the Wolf Away from the Door plan, the first thing is, and I find some people often waste time feeling emotional and taking it personally that they were selected, that their name was on the list, that they've lost their status, so to say.
Yeah.
So the first encouragement I have is God is your employer, and so you are not unemployed. You just need to look to the right source
Yes.
of your employment.
First, calm down. I
That's
think,
right.
isn't that some?
That's right.
Calm down and go
Don't
ahead.
panic.
Yeah.
Don't panic. But first of all, it's important, if we have not yet prepared for this in advance, to downsize our lifestyle. Immediately look at all expenses and literally downsize to the bare necessities. And I have some surprises for your viewers. Cable television is not a necessity.
Oh, okay.
Cell phones for every member in the household with unlimited talk and unlimited text is not a necessity. You really have to downsize based on the fact that you may or may not have sufficient income coming in to cover bills that you once were able to pay. And so it's very important to think of a 12-month transitional time. And the most important thing not to do is please do not start looking for another job.
Wow.
People waste a lot of time looking for another job for income rather than focusing on beginning to create income for themselves.
Okay.
We are in the situation because we were in a situation in a job. We don't control income from a job. The best thing you can do is to now identify and create a source of income for yourself that while you are now making this transition, you'll be in control of the income that's coming in.
Okay, great. So it's creating that self-sufficiency where you
Absolutely.
don't need a job.
And
Is that right?
honestly, in a situation where jobs are being reduced, it's redundant. It's unnecessary to go out and look for jobs, which may be there. You might get hired for 2 months, and then there's another round of layoffs.
I mean,
so it's unnecessary.
So basically, you're saying to look at yourself and look at skills that you may have to be able to market.
Absolutely, and she's way ahead of us.
That's right.
That's good. That's good.
That's what we're gonna.
But one of the things I wanted to really mention in the downsizing of one's lifestyle, it's also very important to notify your creditors, talk to your creditors, let them know you had a change in your income status. And one of the first things you do is negotiate. Negotiate no payments, lower payments, interest-only payments. Renegotiate your payment plan with creditors. And in a climate like this, you're very likely to get all kinds of negotiation offers from creditors, because rather than have you default on certain things, they'd rather have some type of arrangement with you.
And is that the concept then of keeping the wolf away from
All
the
of
door?
it, because you
The
see,
creditors.
once you keep the phone from ringing off the hook from bill collectors, once you take the financial pressure off, the initial pressure is the financial pressure of the debt and bills we originally incurred that we can no longer pay.
Okay.
So we take that pressure off. Now we can switch our focus to creating and bringing income in.
With or without the job. And that's where we're coming up, Lisandra, which you were talking about with the
marketing your
immediate
skills.
income. What do you do? What are the steps? And go ahead, let us know
Now,
what the steps are.
there's a word immediate, and immediate is clearly, this is right now. We need income today. This is not income we're going to seek for months from now. So it's ideal, as you were saying, Lysandra, take an inventory. And I don't use the word skills, because people tend to think about job-related types of things when they say skills. Each of us has God-given natural talents, gifts, and abilities, which for years God has been in that still small voice behind you saying, you should write those songs. You should write that book. You should be working with children.
Right.
You're the one who can do this. And we keep squeezing ourselves into a job instead of doing the thing God has guided us to do, because we don't realize that's what will prosper us. So make a list of those things that you are naturally gifted and talented for. Then I really advise having a consultation with someone who can help you to now say, which of these things do I know someone who can pay me to do these things? How much can I set my pricing for? And then help you to develop your presentation, to go out and present yourself, to actually become paid to do those things.
And up on the screen, we do have the 5 steps for immediate income, and that's definitely one of them, focusing on the gifts. You also talk about setting your price and ask and present to clients. Just a little bit about that.
Yes, and it's the reason I suggest consultation with someone to do that is often we will undervalue ourselves and the value of what we have to offer. We tend to measure ourselves based on how jobs and salaries have valued us in the past. But just for example, I can tell you there are people whose hourly time is worth up to $600 an hour because they have natural gifts as salespersons. And they are able to, within 30 minutes, make a presentation and close and bring in money to someone's business that can result in $50,000 of revenue for that year to that business.
Right.
So how you value yourself, how you value your time, how you prepare and present. There's a very good key that most people are not thinking about. Different entities procure or buy goods and services differently also.
So how does a person then go about finding those entities? Is that is the challenge then?
The list of personal contacts. There's a wonderful speech that was given many decades ago called Acres of Diamonds. And in that speech, everybody goes all over the world looking for the best. How do I find a client? Where can I sell my goods? And in fact, right in our own backyard, that personal contact base that we generally have all the referrals and all the clients that we need in our personal contact base.
Excellent. And that's how we can generate the income from our own skills and our own talents. Great. Well, we're out of time right now, but we're coming up next and we will still have more of Jamila Harris, and she's going to talk about making income or increasing your income with or without a job. Stay tuned. Good morning, VI.
Wake up, VI! It's time to tune in. Yeah. This is the day the Lord has made. Whoa.
5
visit us at 9000 Lockhart Garden or on the web www.furniturenvi.com or just call 774-2583.
Let Furniture Inn make your house a home.
What's your prescription for carrying a professional service? The Medicine Shop Pharmacy. We accept most insurance plans. Plus, you'll save more by using the Medicine Shop prescription discount card. We carry a full line of medical supply products for sale and rental, hospital uniforms in all sizes. We're the best choice for sundry products, greeting cards, vitamins, and much more. The Medicine Shop Pharmacy, 776-1235, Havenside Shopping Mall, carrying beyond prescriptions.
Welcome back to Good Morning VI as we talk about making your work work for you. And we're here still with Jamila Harris, who has a whole lot more for us because she's talking about her book, Create Income with or Without a Job. Well, Jamila, we have a question from Sherma.
Hey, Jamila. Currently, I have 2 jobs. Should I focus on keeping both jobs in case one lays me off?
That's a great question. First of all, it's important to shift our thinking. Jobs do not create income that we can control, and jobs create more income taxes. So it is better not to have 2 jobs. It's better to have multiple streams of income. So this is the best time to create income from something you do out of your natural talents, gifts, and abilities that you control the income on, because from a tax perspective, you're allowed to deduct from your income the costs of providing the service that you give from creating your own income.
I remember listening to your audio book. You talked about always being in the mindset of having another stream of income in addition to your job that has nothing to do with your job. And I really like that. What's the importance of that?
It's vitally important to have income from many sources. If one source dries up, it's the proverbial don't have all of your eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
So no matter what your profession, job income is something that biblically it's always meant just to be a seed. It's not our harvest. And so actually working and prospering from those natural gifts, talents, and abilities, and someone showing you how to make that revenue generating, how to create income with it, is where you actually will prosper. Job from income has never been sufficient to prosper or create wealth for a person.
Exactly. And really, when you talk about jobs, people have this thing called job security, which I always think is a misnomer. Is that right? There's never really job security when you're working for someone. Right?
Absolutely correct. And the other thing that's important is to realize that we can do more than one thing at a time. And I know all of us, especially who are educated, were taught, specialize, become very good at one thing and get specialized. And that's how in 1980, I ended up dead in the water, and within 18 months of losing my job, broke and homeless. Because I had specialized in one area. And when that job was taken away and no other jobs were available in that specialization, I had no options. So it's always important to have multiple streams of income, to know that you can do more than one type of work at a time. You can do more than one thing at a time.
So essentially, regardless of the climate and the economy, you should always try to find other streams of income with your talents, gifts, and abilities, as you're saying.
Absolutely. It's very important to learn to use our time. In the 24 hours a day that we have, if you compare how you use your 24 hours a day to some of the more prosperous and successful people, you will see that they use their day parts as productive units. They know in every part of the day if they're engaged in an activity that's creating money or that's not. Watching television is wonderful. We have to watch Good Morning VI. But for the rest of the day, we really need to determine what we're engaged in that's creating money and bringing money into our family and our home.
And that's where we come to, instead of just surviving, we're going to talk about thriving, because that's what we should be really doing, not just surviving paycheck to paycheck, thriving. Well, we have a question from Shamari.
So Jamila, how do I know which skills I have can make me money?
That's an excellent question too. And again, I'll qualify not to think in terms of skills. Skills is a word you use associated with jobs. You want to think about, what is it that I really love and enjoy doing? What is it that I've always enjoyed doing that I would do if no one were paying me to do it? If you really love working with kids, and there are people who are naturally great with children, why aren't you choosing babysitting or a tutoring program as something that you can do? You design it so that it brings income into you.
So that's going again to those gifts and talents. But sometimes some people really, sometimes are like, well, what is my passion? What is my calling? Sometimes we can refer to it as a calling. What is my calling? What makes me special and different? How do you find that?
There are two things I recommend. The first thing is your creator is the best consultant, and spending time in the Word and listening to God speak to you, He will tell you, He will show you, He created you for a purpose. He'll explain to you what your purpose is. But secondly, you can also have a consultation with someone. Sometimes it's great to have someone who is looking at you in ways that you don't see yourself, and they can see strengths and talents that you have. And then definitely have a consultation with someone who can teach you to make those things income generating. And the key is this: a lot of people say to me, well, I don't want to be in business. I don't want to start a business. And you don't have to think of it as your own business. Just think of it as creating income for yourself. And what will happen is you realize that you will just put little projects together and things that you're doing together, one behind the other, and one day you'll be earning enough to cover all of your monthly expenses.
And perhaps it'll be enjoyable too because it's your passion, right?
And yes, and every day you'll be engaged in meaningful work and joyful work. It changes the whole course of your life.
Exactly. And I wanted to mention in your audiobook, you talked about going back to what you like to do as a child. Why is that important? How does that work?
You know, we drown out those things we were really naturally created for because, oh, they're hiring in this field right now. And then you go to work in a job in a particular field, whether it nurtures you or expands you or not. You do it just for a paycheck. The key is to look to the right source for our money. God is the source of money. The paycheck never was the source.
So what is it about the child and what you do as a child that tells you about your passion or your talents? What is that?
Yeah, often before you've been influenced by external influences, children will naturally display what they're naturally gifted in and what they naturally love. And so if we remember that, or can even talk to someone who used to observe us as a child. In fact, if you notice, most entrepreneurs who are interviewed, who are successful entrepreneurs now, they can tell you at 7 years old, I used to publish my own newspaper and run around the neighborhood and sell it. You know, I used to collect bottles. I used to do this and that. People who have those types of natural abilities, normally, they're very evident at a young age.
Well, I need to get very quickly, because it's important to get to 5 thoughts that you talk about. 5 thoughts for creating income without a job. We have to change our mindset. What are those thoughts?
Well, you know, first of all, to begin to know that you're self-employed. All of your income comes from how well you market your natural skills, gifts, and talents and abilities. Secondly, you're special. The way that you deliver or do things is special. God created every one of us uniquely. You can do more than one thing at a time, contrary to normal training. And it's also important to know that, you know,
self-sufficiency. I think number 3, we talk about self-sufficiency. I can earn enough money to be self-sufficient.
And people think that they have to have a paycheck to earn enough money. You can put together enough projects, or the one project that you really should have been doing all along, and you will be self-sufficient in your bills. And you can absolutely, it's very important to have the real goal, which is not retirement. Our goal should be financial independence.
And what's the difference?
The difference is that you reach a point where you no longer have to work for money, but you're actually in life able to do and engage in and be here for those things that God really created you to be here for.
Oh, great. Oh, that's wonderful. And our time is up, but you've been really helpful about surviving, thriving, and earning and creating income without a job.
Well, I want to be sure that people can get support. And they can call me. My number is 340-998-7084. They can email me, Jamila, at createincomewithoutajob.com, or visit our website, create income without a job.com.
That's great. So now we know you lose your job, it's not all lost. You can do it. So coming up next in Good Morning VI, we're going to be closing with our assignment as well as our affirmations. So stay tuned and Good Morning VI.
Wake up, VI! It's time to tune in. Yeah. This is the day the Lord has made. Whoa. Rejoice and be glad in it. Good morning, VI. Good morning, morning. Wake up. It's time to tune in. Good morning, morning. This is the day the Lord has made. Good morning, VI. Good morning, morning. Wake up. It's time to tune in. Good morning, morning. Wake up, VI. It's time to tune in. Yeah. This is the day.
Welcome back to Good Morning VI as we were talking about making work for you. This was such a great show for me. I mean, both our guests, because they really address things that are actually going on when you have a job, and then even now in this climate when sometimes you might find yourself without one or trying to get another one, just trying to create more income because, to supplement what it is that you're making. What was like the greatest thing, do you think, that really hit you about
Dr. Hill?
Yeah.
Dr. Hill, when he spoke about being a better person to be able to overcome what's going on, at your job, how to make your job better, how to make your job experience better. When he spoke about that, and really, talking about doing introspection and knowing yourself to be able to overcome whatever obstacles are, challenging you at your job. That really resonated with me. Yes.
I love that too. And actually having read his book too, and it's very, very easy reading, which everybody should really look at it. Very easy reading. But what was great is like really looking at the situation from a different perspective when there is a negative situation on your job. Let's say when you have a negative boss, and he talks about that kind of thing. But really like focusing on like, you really have to look at how it benefits you. So how you react to the situation, as he says, makes the world of difference. So even though you can't control your boss, or you can't control your employer, you can't control other things, people you work with, you can control your reaction and just find something that can really make you succeed.
Because you're the interested one, and you're the one who's going to benefit in the end anyway. So yes, that was
Right. And I remember what he had said to us at a certain point. It wasn't on the show, but like afterwards when we were talking,
we were
off camera.
I wish they had taped that. Yes, that was really good.
And he was saying, there's some people who you might end up working with that, or even your boss, just want to make you miserable. And that's all they want to do. They want to make you miserable. That's what they live for, right? And that is really the case. And he says, so really the book is to help you to know that they're there, but be able to succeed and not let them impede your performance.
Or bring you down. That's
exactly.
Right.
And so, and that's really important. So, and then for me, Jamila Harris, especially with the climate that's going on, with words of layoffs and words of all kinds of things in this economic crisis, I really think that book, that audiobook, working or creating an income with or without a job, it was so important. And what I think that she said that really hit me too is that you should not have a job as the only source of income. You should always have an income separate and apart from your job.
That was very interesting.
That is very important, because then you're not totally depending on this job. There is no such thing as job security. We know that.
Right.
And anybody who thinks they have job security, you're fooling yourself.
You don't. No matter
because
what you are or where you are. And one of the things also that she spoke about is having two jobs. Not looking for another job because you're thinking you might be getting laid off. Some people are like, oh my goodness, I need to try to find another job. No, have your source of income be, of course, God. And then your skill. Use some skill that you have to make money. So you'll always have it because it's yours.
Exactly. And the thing about the book that I love too is that she gives you a step-by-step approach in you finding what your special skills are and what your talents are. Because a lot of times we do things that there are a lot of things that we're really good at, but we don't really pay attention to. We kind of like take ourselves for granted. So it's sort of like
make us money.
Right.
It can be a source, yes.
Right. Exactly. And the book really helps for that. So I think you really, I really recommend both books to everyone, whether you have a job or you don't have a job. It's really, really outstanding. So, well, that kind of brings us to this week's assignment. Okay, the assignment for the week. Okay, and that is, it comes in 2 parts. First, take an inventory and write down all of the things that you know how to do well and enjoy doing. Then 2, create ways of generating income with the talents and skills you have. And of course, that comes from, like we're talking about.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, even for myself, from my own experience, I'm bilingual. Maybe I can open a translating service.
That's right. Or
yes,
you can
and make money, or some type of helping agency that helps persons to translate and interpret documents. So
yeah, even the courts and various agencies, like you said, need people to do
what
that.
What are you gonna do?
Oh well, I have quite a few things. In fact, they're in. I'm really working on it. They're in the making.
Okay, good. Okay,
so
okay.
I don't want to say nothing right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm sad. But it's really looking at your God-given talents and really realizing it. So really, do that assignment. Then, of course, we'll come to our confession. As we always close with a confession or an affirmation of faith. And as is always important, you should write it down. You should say it, because many times what we say to ourselves, in fact, in most cases, what we say to ourselves has a greater impact than what anybody can say to us. So we need to speak words that are positive and that will enhance and encourage ourselves. So exactly. So the confession for this week is, I do not let bad news about the economy or financial adversity discourage me or cause me to become fearful, because God is my provider. I am receiving wisdom and insight, which is assuring me that I will prosper even through times of economic adversity. Well, thank you for joining us. Until we see you again on Good Morning VI.
It's time to tune in. Yeah. This is the day the Lord has made. Rejoice and be glad in it. Yeah. Hey! Good morning, VI. Good morning. Wake up. It's time to tune in. Good morning. This is the day the Lord has made. Good morning, VI. Good morning. Wake up. It's time to tune in. Good morning. Healthy living, money matters. It's the world around us. Family and education, we can't live without it. So just tune in. Yes, it's right on